Oh, hey there, everybody. Just hold on 1 minute. I'm just looking at my phone. I know I called your attention, but now something's come up that's more important, so I'm going to stare at my phone for a minute. I can't even crack a half joke about how preposterous it is that we're all addicted to social media. And I shouldn't say all of us. That's not fair. But let's just say that a majority of us are well aware of the temptation to scroll, to look at what's new, what's posted, what comments. Now, I've been playing this game for a long time, just like the rest of you. And I wanted to talk a little bit about social addiction, social media addiction, and dopamine, which you've probably heard a million times. You know, you get that reward, so all you got to do is just put your phone down and go out, go for a walk, things like that. Now, it's funny because one of the things about us looking at our phones or playing on our computers, whatever it might be, is that we can justify it by the fact that we're looking at something important to us, whether it be news or informative. And it's hard to distinguish sometimes between being sucked into social media and, say, writing a book or reading news, because we're doing it all on the same device. So I wanted to talk for a minute about coping with this feeling, why we have it, and some choices we can make that can improve our lives. And I'm saying this at a time where I'm procrastinating on a few things I need to get done. I've been working in my office, cleaning out drawers, doing all the little things that you don't want to do. And we all know that if you push just for a few minutes, you get into your flow state and you're ready to go. I mean, it's not hard to get motivated once you get going. But getting going is sometimes the hardest part. Getting into that initial state of, all right, this is fine, we're just going to keep doing this. Social media, on the other hand, gives us a false sense or a delusional version of our reality and purpose. We think it's important to answer comments, and maybe it is, depending on what type of a site you have. But we think it's more important than it is to keep interacting with strangers online. And I definitely am aware that this is not a universal trait, but the more you do it, the more it can become a compulsion, just like anything else. And it's not just like it's like a drug, of course, but everything's like a drug. There are a lot of people that I've met who really believe that they have no addictions, they've never touched drugs, they've never done anything, harmful in their lives that, to their bodies, and they don't look at their, well, at least back in the day, they don't, sit around at home. They go out and do things. They go out and enjoy themselves. But then you find that these people are addicted to, say, adventures, which is much better option. But let's say maybe they're addicted to shopping. People don't even consider this an addiction. The dopamine rush you get, the satisfaction from buying clothing, is the same as you get from doing a line of cocaine, the same you get from responding to a tweet or posting one. Now, the feedback we get is what's most important. So negative feedback can cause an actual reverse in this, or it can become a burden to be online for a lot of people. And I think if we're to look at the benefits of this, it would be that we're really able to more quickly gauge our opinions and how they're reflected by others. A lot of people in our personal lives, in our daily lives, our waking lives, whether it's family or friends, will kind of gloss over something we say because they don't want to argue, but they totally disagree with it. And we might never know we're wrong. But online, if you post something, you better stand by it, because a million people who disagree will call you wrong. It doesn't matter if it's right or not. 2020 has been a very stressful year for a lot of people. It is very difficult for most people to cope with uncertainty. And this is probably my epiphany or revelation of the year, is that the problem that we have here is we don't like not knowing what's coming, and we don't like uncertainty in the future. or in the present. And so taking the time, like several months back, I remember taking a trip in the spring. I think it was our last winter sometime, on a camping trip by myself. I took the school bus. We own a school bus, a short bus. It's like converted into an RV. Took that out to the woods by myself. It was a dark, the sun came down. It was like this time of year. The sun was, going down at like 5 p.m. And I just sat in the bus. There wasn't a lot to do. And I just read and thought about life. Going on a trip by yourself can be one of the most rewarding things. It's very difficult to do. For me, with kids, with the family, it's harder to do. You can't just take off whenever you want. But it's, I think, a very rewarding thing, and I think I should probably do it again in the near future. But not even by yourself. You can be with other people. I prefer to be camping with my family. Once I was out there, I realized all I really want to do is be out here with my kids and my wife, But right now is a good time for us to try to break away from our bad habits and our compulsions and rethink our lives. Now I say this because the whole world is going through not just a change with the crisis that we face as, say, COVID, or even climate change or anything else. It's the whole of growing up in an age of technology and fast-paced. No matter what you believe, no matter what you think is true, most of us, I guarantee, agree that everything is moving at a faster pace. And you can't really deny that. It's Moore's law. It actually says this with computers. Computers are so closely related to humans, and it's absurd. But Moore's law says that every 18 months or so, the capacity of transistors of memory doubles. That's why when I was a kid, we had like 5,000 kilobytes was amazing, or 5 megabytes, right? And now you've got, terabytes, and it goes on and on. Everything has changed dramatically since I was young. So nostalgia is the next part of this discussion. Looking back at the things that we thought were important, the things that we really enjoy, those smells, a certain incense, or perhaps a song that triggers a feeling. And that feeling brings us back to whatever year it was, say the early 90s for me in school, in high school, thinking, wow, or the 80s, in grade school. And something occurs that just reminds you of a certain time. Why do we look back at these times with such, awe and reverence? Because we remember them not quite as they were. Humans tend to not see things the way we really should, but our memory serves us in a way that's beneficial and supportive. This is why we tend to block out bad memories, and once in a while we remember something that happened. We're like, oh God, I totally forgot about that. But the good things tend to be easier to remember because we go over them in our heads. So nostalgia reminds us of who we are and what we love. That changes over time, so therefore we find that maybe that nostalgia doesn't take us back to who we are now. For example, me listening to some hardcore music that maybe the lyrics don't represent how I feel today, but that feeling is still there. I'd get into psychedelics, but I'm not going to talk about that. But psychedelics can cause a nostalgia. In other words, a person taking MDMA at a certain festival or a concert might find that they're addicted to that music, or it becomes part of their life so strongly because of those feelings that they had. You can fall in love with an idea. Being human is very strange. And so I think that the reason why we're having such an issue today, because we've always been confused. We've always wanted to look back in time, but because we're confused about what really matters, and we're confused about whether the future is going to be there for us as citizens, as individuals, whether the kids who are growing up in today's world will have a job or any type of, assistance in that future, which is going to be chaos for a lot of people because we have a large population and resources will be diminishing over time. Eventually, it might take decades, it might take 100 years, but we're already seeing the results of this. so people are stressed out about it as a collective. If human beings as a whole are stressed out about life, stressed out about what's going on in the world, we don't have a lot of time to think and sing kumbaya about the future, even though we want to. So what really matters in the big picture? It's not arguments. It's about politics, unless those politics can resolve our problems. But how do we sit with our choices and attitudes when alone? I think that's one of the most crucial things for us to analyze. Whatever you can say on the internet or talk with family and friends about, how does it feel when you're by yourself? Are you able to sleep at night? Do you get a good rest, and do you feel like your judgments are correct? Maybe that's what matters. Maybe not. Maybe we fool ourselves, because I don't know how other people feel. That makes it very difficult to gauge. But I think that loneliness causes anxiety and depression, and loneliness is a killer. Anxiety and depression are killers. So I think that a lot of people in society who don't feel like they have family or friends, they don't even have a community to really rely on. People are desperate to join groups and meet people. Even I, who have a family who loves me, still find myself, enjoying the validation of being online. I recognize that. Why? I'm not sure. But I feel like as a human, we want to bounce our ideas. We're like, is this okay? Is this okay? I don't know. We're all feeling our way through. Now, the people who have it all, they're all sure of themselves. They make a lot of other people feel like they should know what's absolutely true and what's wrong. It's not the way it works. We're constantly adapting to our environment. We see things that we used to think were horrible that we realize, okay, that's the way things have to be because of, that's just the way they are, the way they've always been. Other things can be changed. But, when it comes to enjoyment or understanding, we have to be independent. In other words, if we gather our truth or our convictions from a group or a state of belief, then we will always be yearning for more. Because this is my belief. You can't rely on others to keep yourself happy, educated, or have a belief system. You really have to develop your own, which means that you need companionship, which can really help us to get a better idea of who we are. But at the same time, if we want to create ideas about what's real and what God is, these kinds of things, we have to do it on our own, completely on our own. It's really important not to follow a group. We must, low self-esteem can be a crutch. A lot of people have a low self-esteem because they don't feel good about themselves, and that's understandable. We all have that sometimes. I look down on myself all the time for things I could do better. Instead of thinking of it as low self-esteem or a harsh outlook, think of it as motivation to do better. If that, it makes complete sense when you really think about it. It's not that it's the idea that we look down on ourselves means we have to do better. Now, not always. Sometimes we're depressed for no reason. We're working hard, but usually if you're doing the right thing, you exercise, you eat right, you try to be motivated in life, you feel all right. Most people do. There are exceptions to the rule, but we have to look within. We can't convince the world to help us. We need to help ourselves. It's very important we use the mental faculties that we were given and not rely on others to keep us in line or educated. But we ultimately learn from each other. And while lowest self-esteem can be a crutch, high self-esteem can be used as a crutch to put down others, a way to make yourself feel like you're better and superior. This happens all the time in what you'd call, I guess, the truther community. People are like, oh, this person doesn't know this, they don't know what's going on. And when I've broken it down and asked people in person, how is this serving you in your daily life? Like, what have you benefited from knowing that even something as extreme as the earth is flat? Like, how's that helped you? I've never got any real answers. It's like the truth seems to stand alone from being useful. In the old days, it was like we wanted to know what's going on so we could understand ourselves better and get a better grip on life. But if it's not helping, it's not helping. So we have control over our lives a lot more than we give ourselves credit for. And we have to step outside our comfort zone regularly. And that's hard for me. That's hard for a lot of people. It's doing something that you know might result in failure with the hopes that you'll do well and putting your all into it. Like writing a book, on and off. For me, I'd love to be able to sit down and focus, so I'm trying now. With all the new shit that we're heading into in the winter, I'm just going to say, hey, I'm going to sit down and focus on writing as much as I can. The thing is, we do have control over our lives, but we don't take it. We really don't. We talk about how the government holds us back, and we don't have freedoms, and our rights are being taken away. Bullshit. In a lot of cases, it's just that we're not doing shit with our own lives. Sometimes things fail. Businesses fail. You know, what's happening right now with COVID in the restaurant industry, my wife and I are pissed. We're like, so they're letting, these other businesses stay open. They're letting malls stay open. Yet, restaurants have to close. It's like, that's bullshit, but it is what it is. It doesn't mean that I'm going to say we're held back. We're going to try to do something with our time, build something, work. We wanted to build like a husband and wife kind of team, but we're not sure what to do. Build furniture, that kind of stuff. I don't know. But you take lemons and you fucking make lemonade, all right? That's all you can do with it. So it's really easy to just sit back, pick up our phones, see what's on YouTube, see what's on Google, see what's in the media, because we don't answer to anyone on there. We can choose who to respond to. Same reason we like text messages, but then they get taken out of context, misunderstood. How many times have you had a conversation with somebody in person and realized that your text messages are getting misunderstood by each other? So, it's easy to just sit back and look at our phones, but it's kind of like when we're driving. If you've been driving for a long time, it becomes ritual. You almost you're like, I don't even remember driving that last half-mile stretch. Not always because you were just distracted or doing something else, but because you're thinking about something else and you're on autopilot. And we're all on autopilot in this technological world. And to be brutally honest, I used to be kind of a doomer, like hoping that the shit would hit the fan in order to reset humanity. Now I know that would cost too much, but if it happens, it happens. However, I would like to say I would have no problem with a solar flare taking out every piece of technology. I would have lots of problems. Like don't. But what I'm saying is, if you could specifically target the internet just for people's phones for a while, just all cell phones die, for example. It could change the world but it probably wouldn't. But it's just one of the things that really does seem to hold us back as a society is our addiction to technology. And in this time, there's too many different opinions coming at us about what life is. The charlatans, the liars, the thieves, trying to tell us what we should buy, what we should do. So we become soft, pathetic, lazy. We're living like kings. The average American today lives like a king did in Europe, hundreds of years ago. We have everything at our disposal, all the foods we could want. And we're definitely showing a king's weight by our obesity in this country and our addictions and our suicide rate and the fact that people are more unhappy in this country, the wealthy countries, than in poor countries. Why is that? Because they're not poor. They're just not living beyond their means. Somebody asked me this the other day, why do you think poor countries are happier? It's because they're not poor. We're just too rich. And being too rich makes you miserable, it seems. But we have to be honest with our emotions, with our intentions, and feelings about life, people, and situations. I think this is something we have to carry with us every fucking day. Make sure that we're always being honest with ourselves and others. And, we know that we feel the best in our lives when we feel challenged and when we take action, which means that we get up and just do something. Could be 15 minutes, half an hour. This morning I got up, cleaned drawers out. It made me feel good. We know what we need to do. It's going to be unique to you as an individual. So, we rarely regret what we did do if we take chances and try to do things, go places. I very rarely have ever regretted trying something, but I have often regretted not trying something. And I think that's something we can all take into heart and really consider that. You know, if you get a chance to go skydiving or on a hike somewhere and you don't want to do it, you might regret that more than if you did it and failed at it or didn't enjoy it, because memories are what make life. And we can't beat ourselves up on life. We just have to keep trying. We have to keep pulling ourselves up, making the best effort we can. And that's my firm opinion on it. And, you know, I go back and forth. I like to be open-minded about what's real and what's not, and what matters and what doesn't, so I can be, you know, ready to receive the next information that I get in life. But sometimes I become well aware that there are no simple answers. And when it comes to social media addiction or our compulsion to do other things to distract ourselves, you also have to ask if it's any different than reading a book. I've heard a lot of people suggest, well, I wanted to get off the internet, so I wanted to read a book instead. It's like, I read books for years. Novels are great, but it's a dopamine rush too. The characters, just like watching a movie. But for some reason in our heads, it's better to read something. Perhaps it is, but I just don't know. I think that it's kind of like when people thought radio was going to destroy us, and then television was going to destroy us. Now they think the internet's going to destroy us. We're just moving into another time. But I think it's really crucial that we're able to still embrace a couple hours a day where we're not staring at a fucking screen, even if I'm sitting here staring at my own camera while I'm recording. I'm trying to. If it wasn't an issue for me, I wouldn't make this recording for you guys, because I want other people to realize that you're not alone. A lot of folks won't admit their own addictions. They won't admit their own problems and their own shortcomings, and that's why when I do, at least I'd like to share that with other people so they can overcome their bullshit without feeling awkward or insignificant. Because you're not. But ultimately, you have to be significant to yourself. That's how I feel. So thanks for listening. Talk to y'all next time. It's going to actually turn this into a podcast here, but I don't think I'll do that. I'm going to do a longer one later. But you all can definitely visit my Patreon channel if you feel like contributing. But also you can listen to my podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, all the other places. It's 15-minute free thinking. I think the link is in the description. And I appreciate you all. Be well, take care of each other, and most of all, the main point of this, take care of yourself. And then the rest will flow naturally. Peace.